JC. I'm one of the co-chairs here at WAVE, and I'll be doing the land acknowledgement today. So when I was working on this land acknowledgement, and admittedly, I'm going to be using it a little bit of both for two events that I have, because I'll be working with the Model United Nations committee, not committee, it's like a national Model United Nations thing. I don't know what's happening, but it's happening in Banff next week. So it's really exciting. So I'll be meeting with a lot of young global leaders from all over the world in Banff, which will be super beautiful. But I worked with the Indigenous Committee, and it's been such an amazing experience. And I think a lot of what I think about land acknowledgements has really changed, especially when I think about relationship with the land. And I talked about this at our last meeting, but one opportunity that I got recently was actually to interview Indian residential school survivors. And I did that all last week. I spent 3 days with survivors, about 7 of them individually. And we talked for about 2 hours about their experiences, and their experiences were harrowing. And one thing that I noticed is that when it comes to us Indigenous people is that when it comes to our relationship with the land and ourselves, we tend to take it lightly. We tend to take things that happen to us kind of lightly in order to keep the conversation going and to keep things light and to smile through a lot of the pain. And that's something that I've learned as an Indigenous woman not to do, and to be really honest with my feelings and my emotions and with my relationship that I want to build with the land as I know it. So when I think of Turtle Island today, I think about what are the steps that I need as an Indigenous woman to get back to a place where we can start taking care of the land again. What do I have to do in order to not limit myself, and so that people around me aren't limiting themselves either? And part of those steps have been making those relationships, starting with my own healing and working with my family. And then I start asking questions around me about who was at residential school in my family, who survived it. A lot of the people that I know have passed that were at residential school, but their stories, they echo literally, like they go on from generation to generation. And I think that's when I had the hardest part of last week, was that I met a woman who was a survivor of the residential school that my grandparents went to. And she talked about her experiences not knowing Cree. She said she had a really easy time. And she said, but those that only spoke Cree had the hardest time there. And I thought about my grandparents and knowing that they were the ones that didn't know English, and why they really drilled into me as I got older, why I shouldn't know my own language. And that was the reason why, because in reality, when it came to 1996, we still had issues with child welfare and the services, and they knew that there was going to be a day where I was taken as well. So they kept that language from me. And now reclaiming it and saying it as part of my first words, as part of the words of how I introduce myself now, because I'm safe. And I know that I'm safe. And now it's like, how do I make sure the generations after me feel safe? And it all starts with the land and with the language and how we start. And so it's really fitting that we start with our land acknowledgement. And that's what I want to acknowledge. So hi, thank you. I know it's really heavy, but it's something that's so important, especially after having those conversations. I'm so fortunate to be in a position where I get to ask these questions and we get to think about these things. But yeah, it was a really important journey for me, and it was hard. I think that was one of the hardest things I had to do in my life, was to be in that room one-on-one. And the worst, like, because we're filmed, we're doing this for a documentary, it's going to be an educational resource because we want to keep Indian residential school, the talk about it in schools. That's our whole project right now. And so once this documentary is done, which should be December 18th, we'll be publishing it everywhere. You'll get to see me on there, but I think the hardest part was like trying not to cry, but the elders saying that it was okay to cry too, because that's such a natural reaction. But I'm like, it was hard because I didn't want, like, it was such a bouncing back and forth, and it's but it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. So I'm really excited. I'll share it with you guys once it's all ready to go. But it's super exciting. And yeah, hi. Thank you for letting me speak today. Thank you.
It's a bit of a hard shift away from that, but first gonna jump into the Indigenous word of the day. And we did have some printed copies for those that do find it to be beneficial for pronunciation. So you can pass these along and grab one if you find that helpful. the word for the day today, because we're heading into winter here, we thought we would teach you how to say winter in our languages. So in the Nunatsiavut dialect is Okiok.
Okiok.
So you say winter.
I love it. Winter in Cree is peepon. Peepon. Yeah.
Do y'all remember the Nopachut and Cree words that you previously learned?
Anyone.
Literally any of the
Anyone.
words we've
Any
talked
of the
about.
words. Yeah.
You know, it's a word. It's 82. Say hello.
82.
82.
82.
This is really helpful. Thank you for printing these out for us.
We're
Okay.
thinking of making this a thing, because then as we go through more meetings, you'll have a little book of Cree and Nupsakuk words. Oh, right?
Thank
So
you.
cute.
Make the passwords printed too, so we can.
We could definitely do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Since we have a new person in the room, we have our new council advisor. We thought it'd be nice to do a roundtable introduction. So your name, your pronouns, how long you've been on Wave, and then maybe what do you do outside of Wave?
Go and start with Toka or me? Or you wanna go like this?
Let's start with Toka because
Yeah.
Hi, so my name is Toka. I'm one of the newer members of WAVE. I think my very first meeting was in September, actually, so I'm very new to this. What I do outside of WAVE, well, I was a master's student, and now I'm not, so I'm trying to navigate life that way.
Hi, I'm JC. Introduce myself and my Cree name first. That's Wapipi Escuela. It means white prairie chicken woman, in case no one knew that. I got that name in ceremony years ago. But if you don't know what a prairie chicken is it's like a small bird, a ruffled grouse. They make a really beautiful sound, but essentially a small flightless bird, that's what it means. And that's my spirit. It's literally my spirit animal. And they run. All they do is just skittle around all over the place. It's so funny. But yeah, that's my name. What is it? Pronouns? My pronouns are she, they. I learned a word from one of the survivors. They were talking, oh, they're so funny. They were talking about what it means to be two-spirit or to have be part of the 2S LGBTQ community. And they had a Cree word. I think I have it here, but what it meant was those who camped outside the camp, because for our people that were 2S LGBTQ, they were so powerful. Oh, here we go. Otoegagos. Otoegagos. The ones that lived separate, because a lot of them were healers. So they would go, and because they did a lot of their healing at night, and it's loud because you're like singing all night, they had to sleep away from them because they would do those ceremonies. So it was so beautiful, but that's what they would use to describe those. And it was really cute that I learned that. What do I do outside of WAVE? I work at MacEwan University. I also do a lot of like volunteer work. I'm just kind of like everywhere. I think that's the best way to describe myself. Kind of everywhere. People just kind of see me pop up in places and they're like, you? I'm like, yeah. It's so fun. But yeah, I work at Kihilo Weston Indigenous Center at MacEwan University. Oh wait, oh my God, I'm kind of there, not anymore. I'm with Indigenous Initiatives at MacEwan University. I've been working there since January, but at MacEwan for longer, and it's been a fun time. I do all the Indigenous Initiatives planning and a lot of work right now. Oh, documentary making now. So that's been really cool. But yeah, that's just about me.
Okay. I guess it's appropriate. I'll do it in open as well. Okay. 82 ako yung ninaksiabag niyo tayo yung atilihay to Farmar. So I just said, hello, my name is Echo. I'm originally from Nunatsiavut, which is Labrador. And then I said, welcome to you. I use they or he pronouns. I'm the other co-chair of WAVE. I've been on WAVE for almost 4 years, which is kind of crazy. Outside of WAVE, I'm a master's student at the U of A, so I'm studying epidemiology with the School of Public Health, which is really exciting. But I also work at the Telesort of Science with Indigenous Initiatives, and I'm the Arctic presenter in the Arctic Journeys Gallery.
Hi, I'm Rhiannon. My pronouns are she, her. I have been a member of WAVE for I think 3 years. and it's been lovely. I'm usually on the policy subcommittee, and so we'll talk about that later and stuff. But outside of WAVE, I work at SACE, the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton, and I do all of their like data and evaluations work. And then I am also part of like the restaurant industry in the city. And I also really like to have fun. I'm committed to having fun a lot. Yes.
I'm Jess Smith, they, them. I have been with WAVE 2 years now. Doesn't feel like that long. And outside of WAVE, I work in zero emission public transit, specifically hydrogen fuel cell buses, and try to not let just those roles define me and find creative outlets where I can.
Hi, I'm Ariza Chiwa. My pronouns are she, her. I've been kind of on the same timeline as Echo, about just shy of 4 years on WAVE. In my work life, I work at the City of Edmonton as a lawyer. And outside of work, I love to play basketball. I love scrapbooking. And I just put up my Christmas tree the other day, so I'm hoping to make some ornaments in the coming weeks. So yeah, just those kind of things. So keep busy.
Amazing. Well, my name is Tu Parmar. It's pronounced like two in between 1 and 3. That H is silent. It really gets people. Today is my first day on WAVE, so I'm very excited to be here. Councillor Erin Rutherford spoke very highly of this group and was sad to give it up when she went to EPL. But I'm really looking forward to it. My pronouns are she, her. I am a pharmacist by trade, 21 years, worked for the provincial government. Don't hold that against me. I then went to go work in private industry, and my last role was as vice president of the Canadian Red Cross, so that I worked with the Jasper wildfires and worked a lot with the not-for-profit and charity sector in Edmonton and Alberta before I was elected. This is week 3 for me, so it's been incredibly amazing. The team is awesome. The energy at council is really good, so I'm looking forward to my first public hearing, which is tomorrow. And so thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. From what I hear, those first, I know this is part of it, but yeah, there was a lot going on, I'm sure.
Yes.
And we'll continue. So thanks for stepping up. Glad that folks.
Yes.
So I'm Allison Bailey. I've been with WAVE. I'm in the 3-year category, and with the Active Citizens group. I use the pronoun she, her, and work for the Canadian Climate Institute, and but you do zero emission stuff, and we haven't talked about in Alberta, like
We've been quiet here.
And one of the volunteer things I do is I'm very much into the dog rescue side of things, and I got a recent foster dog. I got a foster dog at the end of September who's big and challenging. So alas, I'm going to sneak out after an hour and just go see the state of the dogs in the apartment. And but I really like it. We're working on separation next.
I'm Trina McGilvery. My pronouns are she, her. I work for the City of Edmonton. I was a sergeant with the Peace Office Unit for about 15 years, and now I'm in the municipal enforcement side of it for problem properties. On the side, I have 3 kids that are into soccer, dance, and gymnastics. So when I'm not here, I'm driving to activities and just constantly busy with the kids. So it's a full-time job, just having them, because they're 10, 12, and 14. So they're very dependent still. So welcome.
Thank you. I've got 3 kids too. And my daughter just had like a tear in her retina today. So she just went into surgery.
My husband's like, she's fine, everything is good.
But similar ages, 14, 12, and 8.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah, they call it, I just tried.
This is really, everything is a full-time job for them.
Screen or you want?
So you can introduce yourselves.
Sarah Parkinson, I work for the city of Edmonton. I work with Bridge and the team, and I've been providing support to WAVE in the background for about a year. Out of interest sake, formally supporting boards in my role. In my personal life, I sit on a women's shelter board and a mixed society board, so seeing it from both sides.
Hi everyone, I'm Landon Turlock. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a social planner with the city of Edmonton, leading the creation of the 2S Elgin Plus Safe Spaces Action Plan. So I'm a guest today. I'm not a part of WAVE, but it's always a privilege to be a part of our conversations together. Outside of work stuff, I do other work. So I work with the Queer Trans Health Collective, and I'm just started my PhD in social work, and I like to make music as well. So.
And sorry, I go by she, her.
Back to all of them. Anything I do outside. My name is Britt Branson. I'm the advisory board facilitator with Captain WAVE. I've been with the city since May. My pronouns are she, her. Outside of work, I'm a competitive dart player, actually.
Cool. People online, I'm just gonna pick somebody and then y'all can pass it to the next person, okay? So let's start with Cherie, because you're at the top left from our perspective.
Hello, sorry I couldn't be there in person. I've been fighting off a nasty virus for the last week. My pronouns are she, her, and my name is Cherie. I'm in between gigs right now in terms of jobs, but I was the former executive director at the Old Strathcona Business Association. So I'm looking for my next role. And so what I'm doing outside of WAVE right now is looking for work is my main focus, and even just contract work at the time. So I've been on WAVE. I joined around the same time as Jess. So I think it's been a year and a half. I think we joined in May, so it's almost 2 years. And these are my people and my safe space. So I love it here. So I'll pass it on to whoever's next. I think Jasmine's online.
I think she was. I don't see her.
Yeah, she's right
Oh,
there.
wait, there she is.
Or maybe Sonia. Jump over to Sonia.
Okay, sure. I can go next. I'm sorry, my camera's off. I'm not feeling very well, but I still wanted to be here. So my name is Sonia. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Sonia Galadar, and I have my pronouns are she, her. I've been with WAVE. It'll be 2 years in May. And outside of WAVE, I work for Norquest College with a very tiny team that does a lot of EDI research and trainings, and we're external facing mostly. We work with community. And my role there, I'm a program administrator and facilitator, and a little bit of an event planner as well. And then outside of work, I'm working with a few different women on a project called She Said. We are on Instagram and on LinkedIn, and we're working to collect the stories of women and gender diverse people in our communities in order to create a workshop or maybe some educational materials by the time we reach the end of the project. We're at our halfway point as of this moment. And I'm also on Norquest College's Living Library Committee. We do a lot of work to help create safe spaces. There's a lot of anti-racism pieces in it, as well as breaking down barriers. So including gender diverse people in our project, just to have them have a safe space to share their stories. And this year's theme, I convinced our committee, is a theme that will focus on BIPOC women and gender diverse people. So with that, I will pass it to Stella.
Thanks, Anya. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Stella Igwamaka. Been with WAVE for 2 years, like the crew, and I'm a researcher by profession. And I also work with a bank here in Edmonton, Service Credit Union, where I build financial products. Outside of WAVE, I supported a number of nonprofits that are supporting the Black community. Very, very special to me. So I'm glad to be here today. Thank you. Pass it over to Love Runs.
Hi, good to meet you too. My name is Laurence Giordane, and my pronouns are she, her. I've been on WAVE for a year and a half, like a good chunk of the committee here. I primarily connect with the Active Citizens series project that we've got going on right now, and then a little bit on the social media side as well. They kind of go hand in hand. So it's more like outreach and education pieces that we've got running. When I am not at WAVE, I'm a geologist. So actually, I don't deal with people at all. Like most people here, I deal with rocks for a living. And I like dancing. So I started taking dance classes as an adult. That's a little bit about me. I see Erica next on my screen.
Hi everyone, I'm Erica Amer. My pronouns are she, her. I've been with WAVE for a year and a half, and outside of WAVE, I'm a full-time student, so that's definitely life and soul consuming for me. But outside of school, I'm really passionate about getting women and gender diverse people into STEM and supporting them in their STEM journey. So I do work with WISEST at the University of Alberta, and yeah. I'll pass it off to Sarah.
Hello, everyone, and hi, counselor. Nice to meet you. My name's Sarah. It's spelled like Sarah, but it's Sarah. My pronouns are she, her, and I don't even know how long I've been on WAVE, but not that long. Like maybe like 4 or 5 months, maybe less, but under a year, sometime under a year. And yeah, on WAVE, I have joined the social media team. So I'm looking forward to helping out those folks in some more storytelling pieces, more advocacy pieces, etc. Outside of WAVE, I work at NATE as a communication strategist, and my focus is Indigenous learning and also equity, diversity, and inclusion. Over at NATE, I also support 3 other schools as well. Outside of NATE, I also, like Rhiannon, work in the hospitality and nightlife industry. That's kind of my side hustle. I've got WAVE. I work on and lead political campaigns at all 3 levels. So I know you just got off a big one, and congrats on your win, which was very exciting. It was a very exciting win. And yeah, what else do I do? I guess that's kind of it. I'm pretty sure those are all the things that I do. Oh, and I just took on a new project because obviously I need to continue to say yes to things. And I'm really excited to be supporting the 5 Artists One Love team this Black History Month. So if anyone wants to come to me for tickets, and counselor will definitely be sending you an invite as well.
Drop the deets in the chat.
Yes, we've gone as a WAVE committee before together. It's really cool.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. Especially the music show. The art gallery exhibit is really amazing too, but I feel like the music show is like so wonderful. So that's awesome that you folks have come together. I hope to see folks out again this year. I'll be helping with communications. I guess that's everybody. Hey, unless Noor is able to introduce herself. Yes, perfect. Excellent.
No, of course. I'm sorry, my laptop is like frying out on me. I don't know what is going on. So I'm online from my phone. My name is Noor, and I've been on the WAVE for a few months now. I'm one of the newer members, and my pronouns are she, her. Professionally, I'm a communications expert. So I work for the city of Edmonton in the integrated communications team doing communication strategy. I support community outside of WAVE and outside of the city. I am very involved with the Muslim community in particular, leading initiatives through Canada's first mosque, the Al-Rashid Mosque. I became the first woman chair to lead the mosque team, so I am very involved in that aspect. I'm a single mom to 2 great kids, 13 and 11, so they're critical ages. Very fun to be around though, so they keep me very busy and on my toes all the time. I'm Palestinian originally, so very passionate about Palestinian advocacy. What else? I think that's it about me, I guess.
Just gonna check on Jasmine one more time. It's okay if you don't want to, but if you're able to, that would be awesome. that's fine.
Can I just say something quick?
Yeah.
Sometimes we've gone through and done like 2 truths and a lie, and I just want to point out some lies going on here. These people do a little bit of social media. And it's here for our social media team. Tanya, Laura. On our Instagram and all the other social medias that I don't know. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm surrounded by some liars. Very underselling yourself. We are not playing 2 truths and a lie. Do you want to introduce yourself?
No, I do not. I'm sorry. I do have to pack up and I'm sorry to be interrupting, but
You're good.
Thanks for coming. Sorry, Echo, can I also just point the time that
Yes.
maybe we want to move the activity till after, like during roundtable time, just so we can make sure to get all the.
I did bring a prize, so we're gonna get to this the end of the day. Okay.
Just crush everything else.
Sorry?
Just crush everything.
Okay, fine. So I guess we'll do that at the end. There will be time, I will make sure of it. So we're gonna pass it off to Landon to talk a little bit about the Safe Spaces action plan.
Sorry, we missed the agenda review and minutes.
You're so right. I can read. Okay. First, before we do that, I would like to motion to approve today's agenda. Can I get a seconder?
I second.
To the emotion prior to voting.
Yeah.
The next meeting is indicated as January the 20th, and I think we will have a December meeting there.
Thank you. But we usually have December meetings. They're usually truncated. We take breaks in the summer in step with council, but that's the only time we take a break and don't have meetings. Thank you for that. Okay, we'll try this again. I'd like to motion to approve the agenda with the amendment that the next meeting is noted as being in December. Can I get a seconder for that? Thank you, Rhiannon. All hands in favor? And that passes. And I would also like to motion to approve last meeting's meeting minutes. Can I get a seconder for that? Karina, all hands in favor?
I'm going to abstain as I listen.
Okay. And that does pass the mute today. Okay, now we're gonna actually move on to Landon to give us the presentation.
So if I'm speaking from here, are folks online able to hear me okay? And so, okay, amazing. Thank you all so much for your time on your agenda. As I mentioned, my name is Landon. I've had the privilege of connecting with the policy committee a few times, but I haven't had a chance to meet all of you before, so I'm really grateful to be here. So basically my hope for today is to talk about the 2SLGQI+ Safe Spaces Action Plan, some of the work that we've done up until this point in putting the plan together that many of you have shared input on, and to go through some of the draft actions that we're proposing for to make sure that they align with what folks have told us before and make sure that it's you know, in the right direction. So that's the general hope for today. I really appreciate JC's land acknowledgement, and I just want to build on that a little bit to say that you know, we recognize that although we use the acronym 2SLGQI+, we can't just assume that everyone within that acronym has the same experiences, and that we need to really consider the intersecting identities that people as a part of this really diverse community, and to also recognize that the needs and experiences of Two-Spirit and Indigenous queer people need to be you know, considered as distinct and important in this work. So I hope we can hold that reflection in mind as we move into today's discussion. I'll also share too, so we are going through these draft actions, and we're going through a lot of conversations like this one that we're having tonight. And so we just ask that the draft actions shared are kind of held within the conversation that we're having, just so more people have an opportunity to provide input on them before they're finalized. So we'll talk a little bit about what how we've gotten here, and what we're aiming to do with your input, and then we'll be going where we'll be going next. So to provide a bit of context, as I'm sure many of you are aware, with our previous council, there was a number of different presentations and advocates connecting with the City Council asking for a 2 SLGBTQI+ safe spaces action plan. And that's resulted in a few different council motions, but I'm just highlighting some of the language on the screen because I think it's very interesting to look at what we've been asked to do. So that includes being asked to develop a 2 SLGBTQI+ community advisory committee and a 2 SLGBTQI+ action plan for the city to enhance supports and services for the 2 SLGBTQI+ community, address rising hate, and create safe and inclusive public spaces. So at a really high level, that is the direction that we've been given to go. And this is a little bit of how we're working to get there. I'm sorry if it's not as readable for folks in the room. I will walk us through it. But basically, so when we first received this motion, a number of my colleagues started working on it, and then became my portfolio in September of last year. And so around that time, we were looking at, how have other jurisdictions across Canada done work like this before? What kind of engagement has already been done in Edmonton and Alberta with the 2 SLGBTQI+ community? And at the same time, I basically started reaching out to every queer and trans serving organization that I could, and different community advocates to say, I want to learn about what you're doing, how I can support what you're doing, and how you might want to be involved in this action plan. And so that led us to work alongside our public engagement consultant, Dialogue Partners, to hold some pre-engagement advisory workshops. And I know some of you were able to participate in those. And that really helped us figure out, how do we do engagement with the 2 SLGBTQI+ community in an effective way. And those were really meaningful conversations, and I'll talk a little bit more about what they resulted in a bit. And then that brought us into our second column, which is a little bit hard to see, but it's our engagement and what we heard reports. So from February to June of this year, we were able to connect with almost 800 2 SLGBTQI+ folks across the city to understand, their needs and desires around this plan. And then we brought all that information together and brought it back to our community partners in June at our community meal to make sure that, we heard people correctly, and that gave us some really good input. Generally sharing that what we heard resonated, but also that there were some groups that we needed to do more engagement with. That's also really helpful. And then over the past few months, moving into our third column, we've been drafting the plan. So people told us a lot of things that they were looking for, and we brought it to every department in the city to say, like, okay, what are the things that you can do as a city to respond to these things that people have told us that they needed. And now we're in a place where we have this draft action plan, and we're having a lot of conversations like this one to make sure that it aligns with what people have told us so far, and make any adjustments to the actions as needed before they're finalized and brought to council in February. So I've had 2 workshops over the past 2 days with a number of organizations that serve queer and trans folks in Edmonton, and then I'll talk a little bit about our Host Your Own conversations in a moment, but we're also able to connect with a number of folks who are community members who aren't necessarily affiliated with any particular organization to make sure that this plan is resonating with them. And then, from there, the gray column is actually going to be this really expansive column one day, which will be our implementation plan that will start once we've written this plan to council in February. So I know that's a lot of information all at once, and I want to be mindful of our time together, so I'll be moving fairly quickly, but there will be lots of opportunity for discussion as you go also. Go ahead.
And then will there be an opportunity to share this presentation with us?
So because there will be, or I think we can share it, but my ask is that it's not shared beyond this group for the time being. Is that okay?
This is publicly shared this week.
I know. But I just want to make sure that the wording and stuff, we have the opportunity to refine before it's shared in its final.
Just to read through the different smaller print.
Totally. So just so folks are a little bit aware of the engagement you've done so far. So we were told that we want to have an opportunity for people to share their input anonymously and in an accessible form. So we had a survey which allowed 463 respondents who were 2S LGBTQI+ to provide input. We also heard from service providers, only 18 responses on our survey for that, but there have been service providers integrated all throughout our engagement. So I think we did hear from them. It's just not reflected in the survey as well. We were also told in our pre-engagement that we want to have an interactive way for people to provide input. So folks might have seen an interactive map where people could put pins of spaces that felt safe and inclusive, or spaces that were kind of ambiguous, or spaces that didn't feel as safe and inclusive, and they can provide that rationale as to why. And then lastly, and probably the part that I'm most proud of, is one of the things that the community organizations told us was that they have an opportunity to connect with a lot of folks that are often missed in more traditional forms of city engagement, and provided that we could support them, they were able to do some engagements to connect with these folks. So we were able to provide subsidies to 13 organizations that included, honoraria for participation, refreshments, also staff time, and that allowed us to connect with 204 folks that we probably otherwise wouldn't have heard from. So that included a number of folks who are refugees, largely due to their experiences as queer and trans folks in their country of origin. That included folks who are Two-Spirit, folks who are unhoused and precariously housed, seniors, youth at youth prom, which is this picture here, where people wrote in, or where the young folks at the prom kind of wrote what their hopes are for the queer and trans community in Edmonton over the next decade, which was really beautiful, and also sometimes shows how much work we have to do as well. So I just wanted to provide a bit of that quick context, but so my hope today is that we'll mostly be discussing, so I promise I'll try not to talk too much. So really my hope is to, align and adjust some of the actions that we'll be talking through today, and also confirm and refine that the actions reflect what has been shared so far, both by yourselves and, just making sure that seems resonant with what you're hearing, especially because we also know that a lot has changed and continues to change even since we wrapped our engagement in June. So we want to make sure that we're still on the right track. So I'm going to share some of the highlighted actions, but the action plan itself is likely to include upwards of 60 actions. Being realistic, I know that we're not going to be able to go through all of them together today. It's not for a desire not to be transparent, but just want to kind of give us a general sense of what the actions are intended to do. So my thought, just because of our limited time together, is that I'll go through kind of all of the pulled or highlighted actions, and then maybe we have a bit of a discussion. Does that sound okay? It'll be a little bit of information overload, so please let me know if we need to change the pace. We can do discussion in between if we need to. But some questions I kind of ask you to reflect on as I share these draft actions is thinking about who are these actions likely to support, who maybe doesn't seem included in these actions yet, and what should the city be careful or thoughtful about when implementing these actions. How does that sound? So I'll run through, we have 3 main action areas, and I'll cover some of the highlighted actions from each of them, and then we'll kind of go through this discussion together at the end. Does that sound good? Okay, awesome. So the first action area, and this is very much built on the themes that we've heard in our What We Heard report, and that is publicly available online, just so folks know. So people told us about the need to build safer and more inclusive city spaces. And so the actions that I'm about to go through really work to describe how the city of Edmonton can make public places like parks, transit, and rec centers feel safe, welcoming, and inclusive. They also explore how the city can take visible and meaningful action to address hate and support 2S LGBTQI+ communities through real programs and partnerships. So this action area is also the one that has the most action. So I'd say probably about probably a good 30 to 35 of the actions are within this action area. So I won't be going through all of them, but I'll go through some of the highlighted ones. So as folks might know, we have a crime prevention through environmental design and a safety audit process that can look at physical spaces, say, what are changes that we need to make to enhance safety. So that will be updated to include specific considerations that people have told us are needed for 2S LGBTQI+ people's experiences. We also have a community safety team that is aware of kind of some of the local spaces that people told us require. Sorry.
Sorry, we were laughing. The camera just moved weirdly.
Oh, okay. I was just like, oh, yeah, there's something okay. Yeah, so we have a community safety team that really works on local and community crime prevention initiatives, and they're aware of some of the specific areas like on that mapping exercise. And so we'll be working to develop some of those crime prevention initiatives in those spaces. Folks may not be aware of the Rainbow Registered program, so I'll briefly cover what it is, but it's a national accreditation that organizations can take that indicate that they are both a safe space for queer and trans employees, but also for members of the public to access. And so that is already a nationally accredited program, and it's something that once you join it, you're on a list, and a lot of people told us it would be great to see a way to know like what businesses and spaces in Edmonton are safe for us to access. And so we'll be creating a funding program that will help cover the costs for local organizations to become Rainbow Registered. We also heard a lot about a desire to have more public signs of inclusion, and so there will be the opportunity for us to add funding to our community mural grant that would support murals that reflect equity and inclusion values, including for the 2S LGBTQI+ community. So the city washroom strategy is going to include gender inclusive design for washrooms and change rooms, and that's currently focusing on our community recreation centers, because we were recognizing that's a main area where people are accessing those kinds of spaces. So that's where that will be focused for the time being. People might know that you can already put your pronouns in email signatures, but those aren't reflected on our staff IDs, so that will be adjusted as well. This isn't included on the highlighted actions, but I know it's a conversation we've had before at this table. So some of our internal like employee and like payment structures will be able to have people reflect not just binary gender options and chosen names. So that will be something that we can that will be adjusting. And I just wanted to highlight that as something that is being worked towards as well. We also will be working on a communications plan that shows clear support for the 2S LGBTQI+ and other marginalized communities, and be working with internal and external partners to improve how people can report and receive help after hate incidents. And we're recognizing within that as well that it's not, we want to make sure that people have opportunities to receive support even if they choose not to go to police as well. So those are some of the process we're looking at there. I know this is a lot of stuff and it will keep going, but feel free to stop me if you need to, or we'll get to it at the end. Folks might be aware that we created a Beyond Belonging grant this year, which is supporting organizations that are doing projects that are informed by the What We Heard report that came out of our engagement process. And so we're announcing the funding decisions for that this week and next week, but it will run again in 2026. And then a permanent social planner position, which you can think of as like a project manager, because I was realizing not everyone always gets familiar with what a social planner does, but there will be a permanent project manager to coordinate the ongoing implementation of the 2S LGBTQI+ Safe Spaces Action Plan, which would likely be just so folks know. And then we also heard that we don't want to just have this plan exist as something totally separate from all the other initiatives that the city is doing. So people might be aware of our anti-racism action plan, the Indigenous framework, the upcoming migrant action plan, and a number of other initiatives. And so the input from this plan is being incorporated into those. And we actually have a number of the folks that are working on these various plans as a part of our steering committee, so we can make sure that these things are lined up. Okay, so that was the biggest one. I know there's a lot, and we can definitely go back as we need as well if folks need. But we'll now look at our second action area of 3. So recognizing different needs and growing public understanding. So these actions really focus on how the city can recognize that not all 2S LGBTQI+ people experience safety or inclusion in the same way. We've also heard a call for education, awareness, and actions that recognize intersecting barriers like racism, colonialism, ableism, or poverty that shape how safe and supported people feel in city spaces, services, and programs. And so some of the actions that we're hoping to have addressed this action area is making sure that 2S LGBTQI+ experiences are reflected in the city's anti-racism corporate action plan, which already exists, but the actions themselves will be informed by the input that we received through our engagement process. We also, right now, our current Indigenous framework doesn't as explicitly include Two-Spirit, Indigiqueer, and 2S LGBTQI+ perspectives, so that will be updated there. For our funding for housing projects, we understand that some of the housing that's available in Edmonton isn't as accessible to queer and trans people as it needs to be. And so one of the ways that we're working to address that is by prioritizing funding projects that will show a commitment to equity, inclusion, and accessibility. There's also going to be, there's a staff training that's currently in development that will be helping staff be more informed in how they engage with unhoused folks, and especially recognizing that anywhere from 10 to 25% of folks who are unhoused are 2S LGBTQI+. We'll make sure that that understanding and consideration is integrated into that training. We also have an ongoing webinar series that educates folks about hate, including hate-motivated crimes and incidents, and that will continue and be including perspectives and considerations of the queer and trans community. And then the last action area, so these actions focus on making 2S LGBTQI+ inclusion part of everyday city actions and decisions, from how services are designed to who makes them. And so one of the things that we heard a lot about was the need for queer and trans history and experiences to be more visible in city spaces. And so one of the ways that we're working to do that is to hire an interpreter in 2026 at Fort Edmonton Park that would be able to deliver and also develop 2S LGBTQI+ history and stories. Then we've talked a lot about a committee. So City Council decides whether they have a council advisory committee. And so that may be a decision that they choose to make, but whether that, if that isn't the direction that things go, we do still have the opportunity to create an administrative advisory committee that would directly shape how we implement this action plan. So depending on the direction that we receive from council on this, we will still have some kind of advisory committee option. It just may change structure depending on council decisions. And then lastly, we're looking at how we work with other levels of government, as well as our agencies, boards, and commissions, so that we referring to like Edmonton Arts Council, Edmonton Heritage Council, that kind of thing, to achieve the goals of the 2S LGBTQI+ Safe-Spaces Action Plan. Okay, so I know that was a lot of information, and people can take a moment with that for sure. But I want to bring us back to the questions I introduced at the beginning to see, kind of how people are, feeling in regards to these actions, who they might most likely support, who might not be fully included based on what you've seen, and any things that we should be thinking about when implementing these actions. I also welcome other input, but these are just some thoughts or some questions to gear our discussion.
Any initial thoughts? I have some initial thoughts, but I'd love to give space for other people if there's. Sneha?
Thanks, Echo. Lyndon, I'm curious about the advisory committee piece.
Yes.
Can you explain that more and go into more detail? And I'm just going to put my 2 cents here. I really think that our siblings from the 2S LGBTQ community deserve their own advisory, and I'm sure it can be weighted based on like numbers. I don't know how all of that works as far as like population and things like that go, but I don't know if that can be noted somewhere, and I'm really hoping that folks will also back me on that. So if you can go into more detail as to what that, I think you said the word administration or administrative committee would be developed. Thank you.
So I can share, and also I may seek some additional guidance from my city colleagues as well. So my understanding is basically for a council committee, which the Women's Advisory Voice of Edmonton is, for that to be created, that would be something that would need to be, as I understand it, approved by city council to move forward.
It's directed and approved, yeah.
And so because we can't guarantee what council will decide, there's also an opportunity for us to, if it doesn't move forward in that direction, for us to have what's called an administrative advisory committee. So what that would mean is that it would still be members of the community. So it would be like city staff, and we would still have a recruitment process and honoraria and ongoing involvement of that committee. But they would be advising, instead of advising council, they would be advising administration, so like city staff, on work that would really be kind of about the ongoing implementation and adjustment of the action plan. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you so much for that. I just wish that we wouldn't lose the community perspective, because I think there's a valuable set of insights there. And as we did our introductions tonight, you can see how talented and accomplished the folks around this table are. I'm sure there are lots of us out there who deserve seats and to have their voices heard from a community perspective. So that's my concern with that. I'll pass it back to Echo.
And I think, sorry, Landon, you go back to council to give an update on all of the work that you've done, everything that you've heard, and as administration, provide recommendation thoughts, but the decision is to the elected officials.
Exactly.
Is the intention to provide a recommendation to have an advisory board? Are you at that point?
I think like this is something that is really actually helpful for us to hear here. If one of those structures seems like more desirable than the other, that's really good for us to hear. So if you think that should be the recommendation we want to hear that.
Yes.
I would agree with that. I remember it was myself, JC, and former WAVE member Nadia. We were the three people that really got this whole thing started. And something that we heard over and over and over again was how important it was to have these voices at council, at the council table, right? Since we don't have like queer people, trans people on council as councilors, it's so important for them to be able to hear community voices directly. So that's how we can make sure that those voices are being heard and that plans, bylaws, and any other projects that come up have that consideration. So I would strongly recommend that an advisory council or committee, I should say, be recommended.
Thank you. Yeah, and because these are one of those things I think we want to hear from you on, like what feels most representative. So that's great.
And maybe even to add on to that, it dilutes the work that we're doing in this space because it feels like we have to cover a broader group of individuals and they're still missing folks as a result of that. So it takes away from the mission of what we should be doing.
When you say we, do you mean?
This group,
Okay,
this
gotcha.
advisory.
Gotcha. Just want to make sure.
To add further context, so that's something we talked about at length prior to all of this getting started, was how there was just nothing for queer people for so long. There hasn't been, right? And so we, as WAVE, had to take on queer and gender diverse issues. Women's issues deserve its own space, just as in the same way that queer issues deserve their own space. It's really difficult to fill both cups when there's only 20 of us and so many voices that deserve to also be heard. So that's some of the context for the conversation that we were having going into this initiative.
No, that's great, and we'll make sure that's reflected.
Would it make it, would it help your committee a bit better if we provided a letter of our recommendation, just saying like, we want this, like we want this to move forward, or is this something that we can just say verbally to you and that you're able to take back?
Yes.
I think you can absolutely do that as a committee, and Landon can keep us posted as it goes forward to council, because to have it in his like binder is great, and it'll probably be reflected in the report. But absolutely, when it goes to council, if there's any opportunity for public, or we could send a letter.
Sneha, I see your hand is up.
Sorry, I just wanted to add one more point while we're still on this subject. The reason that I think it should be community like led or based is also because sometimes when we have administrative committees directly from the organization itself, for example, I sit on 2 committees at Northwest College right now, and we are in the midst of negotiations. So a lot of our committee members have gone very silent, or we don't actually bring real issues to the table at the moment because we're scared for our positions, for example. And I'm not saying it would be the same thing here, but that takes an added layer or pressure off of folks when it's community led or it's community members on these type of advisories, is that they're going to come to you speaking from a place of like safety and truth. So that was the only other point I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you. And I should clarify that whether it's a council committee or an advisory committee, it would still be comprised of non-city employees. I just want to clarify that. It would still be supported by like city administration, much like this, but it would still be community members either way. So I just want to make sure that's clear. But we're hearing that that city council or advisory council is what people are looking for, and that's great to hear. So.
I did have a question. I don't know if, I'm trying to remember if it was mentioned. I don't think it was. Were you able to speak to like the disabled queer community at all?
Yes, so we did. So actually about 23% of the survey respondents who were identified being QSLQI+ also identified having a disability. And we were also able to connect with folks who identified having a disability in our in-person conversations as well.
Awesome, glad to hear.
And something that's kind of or meaningful is that because we were able to put a lot of resources and intention into this engagement approach, this engagement approach allowed us to reach more queer and trans people than has ever been reached by the city before. And that includes so there's been a lot of amazing work done on the accessibility framework that the city has, but they weren't as able to reach queer and trans folks with disabilities in that engagement. And now that we have that perspective, we're bringing that back to the accessibility framework. So that when they're doing that work, it's also informed by this perspective. So we're a lot of information sharing and connecting, and the person who's running the accessibility or leading the accessibility framework is on our like task team that's making this plan as well. So that we're working really closely together is I guess what I need to say. Was that? Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if it was. Oh yeah.
Kind of 2-part question. In relation to action 3, would there ever be a scenario where there's either no advisory board or administration board? Like, could that occur? And then a second question is, if that is the case or not, does action 1 and 2 still occur as work for the city?
That's a really good question. So the action areas 1 and 2, basically all actions will go ahead, even if the committee structure doesn't. But my understanding is that kind of like we're hearing, it sounds like first choice is having an advisory council, which is a council decision to make. If that doesn't work, we still have the resources to make an administrative advisory. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sheree?
Hi, thanks, Landon. Good to see you again. I love all these action items. I feel like there's stuff that came up even more than we probably the last time we saw this. So this is awesome. I have kind of a 2-part question, and with 2 sitting there as our council advisor, hoping she'll bring some of this back to city council. But I guess one of my questions would be, I'm sure there's going to be budgetary sort of implications to implementing some of this action plan, as well as creating an advisory committee like ours. And when would that go forward to council if there was new budget requirements for something related to these actions?
So that's a really good question. So right now, when we received the council motion to do this work in the first place, we received an amount of money that allowed for my position to exist and allowed us to bring on a public engagement consultant. And it's also brought on an amount of money that's ongoing, but not tons that will allow us to like have an administrative committee or city or council committee, like we have resources for that. And then that like community mural grant, the offsetting costs of the Rainbow Register program, those are all things that we have money for ongoing. The Beyond Belonging grant is a substantially larger chunk of money, and we were able to do that because through the Community Safety and Wellbeing Fund, we were allocated $750,000 in 2025 and the same amount in 2026. So we have money for 2025 and 2026 to do that funding. To be able to offer that funding past 2026, we'll be looking to explore new funding options for that. So that might be going to council to request additional funding. It may be new allocation of existing resources that we have. We're still figuring out exactly how we do that, but the plan is to find ways to sustain that beyond 2026. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks. So then I guess second part of that question would be, well, actually there's two more. When does this go to council? Because I think for all of us, as you can hear, this is a pretty big priority for us to advocate for. So we want to be able to go to council. And then I have a follow-up question about council's first unanimous motion they made around housing, or sorry, day shelter support. And just wondering if your group is going to have any involvement with ensuring that day shelter support is inclusive for that community as well.
Okay, so first question, February, but I will let you know about dates when I have them available. But February is what we're looking at currently. In regards to the day shelter programming, I'm aware of some of the folks that are working on that, and so I'll check in with them and see, like, you know, if and how that's working, or how we might be able to support that. But
I also have a two-parter kind of question, which I feel like is the trend so far. But so far, I love everything in this presentation. I think the action items are really great. And so I'm really excited about everything. I was wondering if there's any sort of like contingency plan if like the province were to get involved or like stop or just like interfere in any of the action items, because I fear they will have it.
That's a really good question. And some of those decisions would likely be made at levels above where I sit. But nonetheless, one of the things that we've heard in discussions with different levels of government is direction to focus on core services. And all of the things that we're looking at in this plan are associated with core services that the city of Edmonton already offers. So my interpretation of this action plan is that what it is doing is making sure that core services that are already provided by the city make sure to serve all members of the community as effectively as possible. And so I think that's a strong position, or a meaningful position to say that, you know, we are offering core services that are accessible.
That's great. The second question that I had was just more so about like how you plan to like evaluate the action plan itself afterwards. Something, and forgive me, I could find it on my phone, but I didn't want to scroll through to find it. But there's like organization across Canada that evaluates the truth and reconciliation calls to action and like the government's effectiveness in it. And they've stopped publishing that report every year because there's nothing to report every year, which is unfortunate, but they use a really effective like Venn diagram kind of system. And there's 4 circles in it with a bunch of overlaps, and they're all, I'm sure people have seen this before, so I'm just repeating that, but they, each of the circles kind of has like a different theme, and one of them's like low-hanging fruit, easy to achieve, and then one of them's like really transformative kind of changes or calls to action. And I think that's a really effective way to kind of highlight the work, because if 50% of the actions that are achieved are the low-hanging fruit ones, then it's great, but it's not like the transformative work that we kind of need. And so, yeah, I would definitely, in terms of evaluation, I think that's really great.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. So an evaluation framework will be released as a part of the action plan. So it will show probably at a high level how we're evaluating the project, but part of what so thankfully I have a colleague who's really good at evaluation, but that is something I'm passionate about, but not as practiced in. And we're working together on an evaluation framework, and we're also making sure to have it aligned with the ways that we're measuring and evaluating other city projects as well, so that we kind of have data that kind of talks to each other and is comparable. But all that to say, we will be checking in annually, and I would be happy if folks want with WAVE, like to be able to do an annual or whatever, at whatever period of time feels helpful, update on, how things are going, what the evaluation is showing us. And that will also be an opportunity, not just to report back, but also to hear back from folks like yourselves to make sure that, we know that things are changing in this landscape all the time. And so we want to make sure that we're updating it as we go and making sure that we're still focusing on actions that are meaningful and relevant to the community. And then so that'll be kind of like a smaller scale, probably annual-ish engagements. And then the hope in 2029 is to do a larger scale refresh of the action plan. That would probably be comparable to the level of engagement that we've just done.
When it comes to, so this is for number 3, when it comes to building a committee space, be it from a council level, from an admin level, in queer spaces, there tends to be certain identities and voices that are louder and more dominating in those spaces. And I think what I would flag is making sure that different age, ability, identities are represented, because very easily in those spaces, it can become very dominated by certain identities.
Thank you for sharing that. That's something that was really echoed in the What We Heard report as well. It's one of the sections. It is a larger document, it's like 60 pages, but it is freely available whenever you want to look at it on our webpage. Is people gave us a lot of input on what a committee would look like and should look like, and what you just said, very much resonates with what we've heard. So that's I think no matter what direction a committee takes, that will be a really sincere and embedded kind of criteria.
And I think managing the expectations, because sometimes to find those different identities, it is more work. It's a lot more effort and more supports are needed. So making sure that that is there and that work is willing to go forward will be important.
Any other questions or comments for Landon? Hearing none, thank you, Landon, for being so regular with these updates. I know I very much appreciate it. I think I can speak for the rest of the committee that we all appreciate that you've kept us up to date with everything that's going on, because this is something that we're very invested in and want to be, we want to continue to be invested in this project. So thank you for taking the time today.
Of course, yeah, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity as well. To kind of close the loop on when you'll hear from me again. But so the action plan, like I said, will be brought to council in February. So we'll be touching base around that time with what that's going to look like. And then, and like I said as well, we're having a lot of conversations like this one throughout the rest of the month of November as well. And then from there, if people are interested, I would be happy to come back however frequently feels helpful to WAVE to not only provide updates, but also be here to make sure that we're still on the right track. So.
We'd love to have you back.
Okay, perfect. Great. Well,
you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Like was said earlier, there is a prize on the line, so if you want to play a game.
I do really want to, but I unfortunately have to run. I'm sorry.
That's fine. All right. So with that, we're going to move into the chair updates. We don't have too many updates, but one of the things we wanted to talk about was the annual report, which is currently in the works. It's partially written. So we've done some of the membership evaluations. I know some of you have done it with us already, and we're about halfway through that, I would say.
More weeks left eventually, but next week is going to be, I think so. Yeah, I think
we
we
do
only
have
have
like 6 on Thursday.
We do. That's why it's short next week. Is this week we got interviews.
But that's been going really well. We've been consistently impressed with everybody so far with the evaluations. Not that I expected any less, of course, because this committee has some really amazing people on it. But that's the update. So it's ongoing. It is due December 7th. We will finish it by then, don't worry. Yeah, and then we want to talk a little bit about the work plan, because it's not up for renewal this year, but it is going to be up for renewal next year. So we kind of wanted to go over a little bit what we had in the work plan from last year and kind of see where we're at. For goal 1, I was going to run through these really quick. So goal 1, advocate to Edmonton City Council on critical issues affecting women and gender diverse people. Action 1, develop a formal process and framework for WAVE committee members to effectively learn about, adopt, and follow up on policy and bylaws relevant to WAVE's mandates. And I don't know if we really ever have gotten around to making a formal framework necessarily. And I wonder if that's something we want to revisit a little more. Sheree?
We did do a framework, I should say Jess did this, for policy. Maybe Jess could speak to that a little bit, and maybe we can just use that for the larger committee, like expand it out as a template.
Yeah. Would you like to speak to that a little bit?
That was like past life me. Basically, I just pulled a lot from our drive and kind of pulled it all together so we could review it and really look at what our focus was to make sure we were focused at the beginning of the year. We can share it out with the broader group if folks want to take a look at it.
Yeah. Just because this is I want to make sure that we get through all of our action items before we have it up for renewal again. And then action item 2 in that same section, monitor and understand the issues and solutions for women and gender diverse people related to bylaw/policy announcements from council with a focus on council's strategic priorities. That's something that I think we do just by default as this kind of committee. So that's been good. And then the last action item for this section is review and advise on bylaws and policies being contemplated by council that are relevant to the committee's mandate and council's strategic priorities. Again, that's kind of the point of why we're a committee. So we've been successful in that. So really it's only action 1 for goal 1 that we haven't fully addressed yet for that section. For goal 2, improve quality of life for women and gender diverse people in Musqueam. Action 1, review and learn about the community safety and well-being strategy and identify areas for WAVE to be involved. We just had a meeting pertinent to that area, so that's definitely happening as well. Action item 2, identify and distribute resources to empower and educate women and gender diverse people in areas such as financial literacy, wage gap, transit safety, housing, and poverty. We have those amazing projects that we've been doing on social media, so definitely a big check mark for that. And then the last action item for that section is develop a feedback mechanism as a pilot to allow community members to identify and inform WAVE on critical issues. This is another thing we haven't really gotten around to. I know we spoke about it when the WAVE website was being refreshed. So this might be a conversation for us to bring back up in the new year. Then our last goal 3, empower women and gender diverse people to get involved in different ways with municipal government. Action item 1, help women and gender diverse people learn about how to engage with council on critical issues. I would say that again, with our social media project, that's been something that we've really had at the forefront, which is really awesome to see. With action item 2, identify and support groups that help promote gender diversity on council/civic engagement. I think we also have done that because on our website, we have the whole resource section, which is awesome.
We've also invited groups to speak here at WAVE too, and we have those connections, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And the Active Citizen Series.
That was the whole point of that series.
I did it.
Action item 3, I promise there's only a few more. Identify areas to reduce burnout with women and gender diverse people on WAVE City Council and leadership positions. This has been a topic of conversation that's been ongoing for many years. And one of the things that we did do was the coacher model to help with chair burnout. And that's been a wild success from our perspective, at least. Definitely something we've brought up to council. I don't know if we've done as much maybe as we could. So that might, again, be another conversation we want to focus on. And then the last action item is identify and advocate for the removal of barriers to civic engagements that could disproportionately affect women and gender diverse people. So again, a lot of our social media projects were centered on this and helping people feel empowered to be engaged. So realistically, there's only 2 action items that we haven't fully covered at this point, which from my point of view is pretty darn good. So good job, team.
That's
on that.
80%.
Continue to do work into the new year so we can present council with all the amazing work that was done on that. Okay. Any questions on that or any comments?
I guess I have a comment in that one of them, a few of us have been chatting about to put together a project proposal for WAVE to review, and that's in relation to the council burnout and hopefully something that we are trying to prevent for councillors too who may have that double load of councillor role and being a strong role in their own families as well. So something upcoming. So even though it might not have yet been touched on, it's being worked on the back end.
Amazing. I look forward to seeing that.
90%.
Yeah, any questions about like the annual reports generally or evaluations or?
Do you have a question? Yeah, I know that WAVE potentially is receiving a new mandate via a new WAVE bylaw. Will that, and maybe this might not be a question that needs an answer at the moment, but something maybe admin can help with. If there's a new mandate, I would want our strategic plan and the 4-year timeline to kind of align with that so that we don't get a new mandate in the middle of our 4-year plan or some sort of like correlation, just so we're not duplicating any work midway through one of which or the other. So hoping that that can be chatted through at some point.
Yeah, the civic agency team is going back to council. I'm not sure when. They're still collecting feedback on the governance review, but any mandate changes or anything like that will have to be presented and decided to do by council. And I know they're suggesting, and again, I don't know what feedback they have, that it does go with council terms. So then that would give you an opportunity to work with what you have and then move forward through the council term, I would suspect.
Because the timing of this is seems to be the opposite of the council terms at the moment. So then I feel like we are setting ourselves up for a new work plan that will then have a completely new mandate, and then some of our authority to do our work plan will have been removed and potentially or changed. And I just don't want us to be in a position where we're now 2 years deep into such wonderful work that we can't maybe follow through with anymore.
I think that's kind of the plan that they're trying to fix. I know that they're working on the mandates. I know that the work plans and the strategic plans are all being reviewed with the governance framework. And so it's all kind of coming together, I think, to put it into one piece so that that doesn't happen. That's why they're trying to do the 4-year schedule with council so that it all is aligning together.
And can admin let us know when that's coming to council as well?
Yes, but I think what you're talking about working on the policy and what's happening now will stay relevant.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Comments from any of the folks online? One last thing I wanted to bring up was we had those safety letters that were written, and I just wanted to ask the committee when we were aiming to send those, because we can decide to do it in the new year, we can decide to do it tomorrow if we want. What are we feeling is best for those letters that were written?
I think that's part of our policy update.
Is that? Okay, great. We'll discuss it in the policy update then. Any last minute comments before we move on to the next section? Okay, so we'll pass it off to the social media update. So we'll pass it to Laurence for that.
Actually, the bulk of the work has been Sarah and Sonia this time around. So.
And one of those two, whichever feels like speaking to this.
I can do a little update for us. But Laurence, please feel free to jump in, or Sarah. So the next big thing coming up for the social media team working group, I don't know what to call us, is on December 10th, we have a strategy / planning meeting coming up for where we're at with things currently and then where we want to move forward into the new year. And so that will be Sarah, Laurence, myself, and Echo and JC will be there for leadership oversight. And to add, you can add and contribute anything you like. What we currently have going on besides that upcoming meeting is, I'm sure you're seeing the storytelling / member intros slowly coming out. I think we have 3 left that are ready to go. And then I just received another one that's been completed. And then I know at least 3 of you asked for extensions to submit yours, and the answer is yes, please do. Even if we do them in the new year or work on those in the new year, that's totally fine. So please continue to work on your pieces and send those my way, and then Sarah and I can do our part on those. And then I know that the Active Citizens team has something in the works, or they're working on that still. So thank you, Stella and Laurence. I don't know if you want to say a little something about that piece. Otherwise, that's it from my end. Thank you. Laurence, do you want to add something?
And I'll let Stella do it during the other update.
Stella, did you want to say about what you're working on for socials? Yeah.
I was gonna wait for the Active Citizens series time.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
To provide that. All good.
Thank you. That's it from Sarah. Sorry, I should ask you. I don't know if you want to add anything. Otherwise, we'll pass back to Echo and JC.
No, we're good.
Just as like a comment for Trans Day of Remembrance, I do have a post that I'm working on. As a few of you know, I'm just working on getting just some final permissions for what people are comfortable with having posted, so bios, and if they want to be collaborators or be tagged and all that stuff. But it will be ready for Thursday, so that's already been created. So keep an eye out for that. I'm very pleased with myself for this post. Any last questions for that? Hearing none. Okay, so we'll pass it off to our admin liaisons for the admin update.
First. So a couple of things. I'll start with, I got some answers to questions you had at the last meeting. Now let me find it. Oh, it was about recruitment. And so there were a few questions about recruitment. You are able to post things wherever you like. I confirmed that. I know that was a question. There was a lot of questions about accessibility for everything. And basically OCC said, they will do whatever we want them to. And so if there are accommodations that we can think of that would be helpful, they are more than willing to do whatever that is. And so right now she was like, well, if they call us or email us, we will mail them a copy. We will like courier pigeon them a copy, whatever is necessary. And, you know, whatever gets people the application, whatever can make them, help them apply. And of course that involves knowing who to call and knowing who to email and being able to do that. But they are doing the best that they can with what they have available. So definitely said, if there are suggestions or if there are any accommodations we can think of that would make it easier, they are absolutely all ears and willing to do that. So I thought that was appreciated. And that came down to, someone asked about GBA Plus recruitment methods. They said the same thing, want to make everything as inclusive and accessible as possible. If there is feedback or anything like that, that they are absolutely happy to hear it. Website is going to be refreshed by January, new information, FAQ, to clarify a few things. They can mail the form. Please ask them, yada, yada. Yes. So currently they post it on, the last question was about where it's posted. It's posted on City of Edmonton website, an email list, Facebook, Google Ads, Indeed, Instagram, LinkedIn, and radio. But word of mouth is actually by a long stretch the largest place that we receive applications from. But that's where it goes currently. But as they said, you are able to post it wherever you feel would be helpful. So light housekeeping thing, I'm gonna start a form for attendance. If we're coming virtually, if we're coming in person, just because it's becoming a bit of an issue, especially with food, especially with how, if we don't have enough people, we could just make it a virtual meeting and things like that, just to make it a little bit easier and lighter on the budget. So I understand things happen, obviously, but I'm gonna make a sheet so that I know who's coming virtually, who's coming in person, and then I'll just do it like the parking form and add it with the agenda. Is that cool with everybody? We also talked about doing some kind of committee survey over the break. I don't know how everyone feels about that. Just about like what you would like to see from us, what you like, what you don't like. Would everyone be okay if we sent something like that over the next little while? Okay. And the last piece was about the presentation coming in January from Civic Agencies team. They would like to know what you guys would like to focus on and what you guys would like to know from the Office of the City Clerk and what is important to include in that presentation and what you would like to hear about.
I have an idea.
Okay.
I'd love to hear about the hiring system and how they're going to combat that and what they're doing with folks who don't have binary genders in that system right now.
Hiring to the city of Edmonton?
Yeah. The HR system that doesn't accept anything but male and female for gender
We
option.
are focusing on committee, so. On governance.
But we can follow up.
We can follow up on that, but the presentation is going to be.
All of us too.
Yeah. Is that?
E for short.
Do we know if that?
Located as a, yes, I'm making an assumption.
Yeah. The presentation is about governance for the committee.
So your question about work plans, that would be relevant for the Office of the City Clerk. Not that we can't find that out, just hearing that it's a concern question. But for Malai, it's about like mandates, terms, rules, budget, municipal governance act, that sort of thing. Where do you want them to focus?
I would love, so we were supplied some bylaws, but it felt like we were kind of loosely following parts and not other parts. I'd love to maybe go through those and identify, that way we all know kind of we're on the same page.
Sure.
Yeah, I think a more extensive overview of how our governance is changing, just because we've kind of been seeing a lot of changes, and I think having a clearer picture of our mandate going forward, how that's going to change, how that might affect our work plan going forward would be good. And then the why it's all happening.
As I recall, that was due to a jurisdiction scan a couple years ago. Am I remembering that correctly? That's what started all this?
Yes.
To bring us more in line with the other cities and how they're operating and like the current best practices is my understanding for the why. So this has been ongoing for a couple of years. Any other questions for admin on that? Or any other thoughts, things that we would like Malai to bring to us?
I think just like an overview of what they do and like their scope and their responsibilities and the stuff. Yeah, and how that impacts WAVE. I always hear the big OCC, but they feel like very ambiguous. But they're very powerful.
Or maybe on that, like the relationship WAVE has with our budget versus admin and the budget And then just the organization of having a meeting and the content that go into a meeting, to what extent is it Waves versus admin's role? Because I know, yeah, with our so many changes, that's really been a shift that we're trying to get used to. So clarification is great.
City comments. Yeah, this is more on the recruitment side that was talked about. I reviewed the last meeting that I missed, and I just wanted to flag very openly that we are lacking a very important voice of a trans woman at our table. So in recruitment, I think we definitely need to consider that.
And I do want to say that that's something that I'm very aware of as well. And as much as I try to encourage the trans women I know in my life to apply themselves or tell their friends, it's a scary place, especially for trans women, especially right now. But it is something that's at the front of mind when we are doing purpose.
Word of mouth is the strongest, so I think letting them know that there is a supportive place. I know I'm also reaching out. Yeah.
Sonia?
On that note, I feel like if there's something we can do through socials to communicate that we're an open and welcoming space, because Echo, as you know, I bugged you for help to get some trans women's voices included on a different project, and we're having a hard time doing that. Not that folks don't want to, but they're very fearful. And I'm noticing a particular fear from trans women. Not to say that the whole community is not scared at the moment, but I think if there's something we can, and maybe that's social team, maybe that's something that we can brainstorm. But I'd love to hear from other committee members. If you have ideas, please email them to us. I think we have a particular responsibility on this one. There's got to be something else we can do to just show folks that we're welcome and inclusive. Thanks, Echo.
Yeah, I do think that we should probably definitely bring that further to the front of mind, because I might be trans, but I'm trans masculine, so I can only speak for that side of things, right? So I would really, really love for us, hopefully, in the next recruitment cycle, to have a trans woman or a trans feminine person, however that ideal person shows up. But yeah, that's something we should probably have as more of a focus in the forefront right now. Sheree?
Yeah, I think this speaks to our recruitment processes, and maybe this goes back to some city admin. Where are those people? So are we reaching out to queer community groups and associations where trans folks are and other folks in the queer community, so that they know WAVE is openly wanting those people? Because it might look like we're not as inclusive based on our name. So I'm just wondering if that's also an option to reach out to some of those groups and invite community members within them.
Well, and that was kind of part of what I was asking when I went to OCC with the questions from last time. A lot of it was, can we just bring that information out everywhere? And they were like, of course, advertise to your groups. And it's why they were asking for the gap analysis to be done and for what we were looking for and for the feedback on what we were looking for, because they don't necessarily know that. And so we need to provide them with the information of what we're looking for exactly. And if there are gaps in the committee, they need to know that so that they can kind of hone in. But I mean, we are not involved in the actual interview or recruitment process. It's mostly the chairs and the city clerk. So it would have to be on that end to be like, who are we advertising to and to who are we gearing it towards? And then what are we looking for in the gaps in the committee? So absolutely it's possible. And that's something that if we need to bring that out somewhere else, then we can absolutely do that.
That gap will show up in the annual report as well. Any other questions on that?
I think this would be a really cool media project for us to do for our recruitment. I think, I don't know how we would advertise that, because it feels like a bear trap almost, right? But I think, it'll be hard, but I think there's some cool design work that we can do with Wave, where we can look at doing maybe like a logo with the trans colors too, and then doing a nice caption with it. I think, but mostly I think it's just that the advertising of safety. I think it's the biggest one, because I, even as a person that is in a lot of different groups, and I deal with a lot of racism from my other job, just like, cause you know, you get, cause for the public, you get hate mail. I get hate mail a lot, but I've never gotten it here. So it's safe, right? So it is good. Like you're not gonna get doxxed or attacked. I'm more at risk at my other job than I am here. Not to talk down about my job if my boss is listening, sorry. But like, I'm so safe there too. We both get the same letters. But yeah, that is just something I want to flag. But I think that's a big point to us, is that we're really safe and we've been safe, which has been really good.
We strive to stay safe.
We strive to stay safe. I think that's the big one.
Sorry. I know when I
There's a
applied-
comment on that.
Oh, yes.
I don't know. Sorry.
When I applied, it was restricted to living in Edmonton, and that was a change that they had constricted from being open before, because I remember the other co-chair lived outside of Edmonton, but she mentioned that wasn't for when she applied. So do you know why they changed that, and if that's something they would open up? Because I feel like that limits like some potential applicants from poor areas around the city.
I mean, it would make sense though that you would have to live in like municipality that.
I see Edmonton, but I'm just thinking like Spruce Grove, and that just, you're limiting, because I know a lot of people that work in Edmonton that do live outside that could potentially.
I think it's because it's outside of jurisdiction. Yeah. That's what it is. Because Edmonton City Council doesn't oversee Sherwood Park or Spruce Grove. I would imagine that was the reasoning for that. There was a comment that I could not read
I
because
think
it's
it
very
was Sonia.
small.
I know Laurence said this might be a place where we use a bit of a budget to do some targeted advertising on socials.
I would like to flag that if we're going to do targeted advertising, that we're also aware that it does open us up to the wrong people also, and bringing that hate in. So we need to make sure we have the balance.
Yeah, I have to say, I don't know how we can target. I was just thinking in terms of if we're not reaching people, like, is there a way for us to like show up in front of people's faces? But you're right. I don't know enough about targeted advertising to know who we can, like, how we can filter. I know we can filter based on demographics, but I don't know to what extent. Worth looking into. We'll look into it.
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to say two quick things. One, I think it was JC, you made some brilliant points. I took down everything you said. 'Cause I think you got some gems in there. And then just on the monitoring of the accounts. So I currently monitor Instagram and LinkedIn accounts. We only get like a tiny bit of hate at the moment. And I block those folks. Sorry, I normally, during the election, we had a few weird things happen, like smaller things, but I brought it forward to Echo and JC. So I always will bring it forward and try to, I'm not on there 24/7, but I do try to monitor even on the days where we don't post, like just to make sure we're protecting ourselves. I don't know if that helps set anyone at ease, but I promise I will continue to do that for as long as I'm able to. Sorry, I'll pass to you.
I do also periodically check. So there's two people at least that are observing, at least casually, periodically. Sarah?
Yeah, I was just going to say that if we do want to get into targeted advertising, I do have experience in it. So we could definitely take like a deep dive into it, but it absolutely will, like the small amount of hate we receive now will definitely amplify. And there are ways to be proactive about that, like blocking words in advance, and things like that. But I also think that the social media team should probably put together something in writing, or at least something for each other, that talks about when we hide a comment versus when we restrict a comment versus when we block someone, just for transparency. I think that that's important in case, it turns into like, well, Wave hates me and they blocked me. We can actually say, well, no, we block all hate speech. But if it's just something rude, maybe we're hiding it. I think that we should
probably discuss moderation at our social media meeting that's coming up.
100%. That's a great flag.
It is.
Anyone else? There is another item under the admin updates as well.
Okay, I'll go ahead for the sharing circle that was discussed at the last meeting. I was not able to get support for that sharing circle in that way. However, I think we do need to recognize the amount of change that this committee has gone through, the amount that is, I mean, just in the past year, you lost your staff person, you then had a new staff person, you've had other staff persons, you're getting different direction, OCC is changing mandate. All of that is really important and we do recognize and need to go through it. But a sharing circle as just that wasn't supported, but we certainly could look at that process as part of your strategic planning out. Because I think recognizing that it's fair and valid, but we have to take it somewhere that's meaningful to our mandate and to council. So let's talk more about that. With that, I also want to ask, and based on the work plan that you presented, Echo, thank you. What information would you like Britt and I to get and bring back? We are looking at tracking council reports, the information that we have about Landon's work, about the work of when OCC goes back. We're absolutely going to get better at flagging that. Because again, that's part of your mandate change, right? You didn't get that before. You didn't do it in that way. So we will set up processes for that. But wanted to just take this opportunity while we were here to say, what is it you'd like us to focus on? Because as Councillor Parmar can attest to, the work is vast. You know, you've done a lot of great work with transit and vehicles and safety, that sort of stuff. Go ahead.
I was just going to suggest maybe as a committee, or we can do it through policy or whatever, but maybe we take some time to choose maybe 3 main priorities from council. I know we said the action plan that we just had a presentation on is a huge priority for us, and housing has been another big one, but maybe, you know, we can all get together and just say, here's the top 3 priorities we would like to see reports on for council. And that would narrow it down instead of getting all of them.
Yeah. I know previously some of the items that we were very interested in and continue to be interested in are things related to housing or like zoning, stuff like that. Transit continues to be something that we keep our eye on. And of course the community safety initiatives that are going on with that, which again, it's a very large topic. But definitely it'd be worth us figuring out the top 3 a little more distinctly.
And the trick is getting ahead of it, right? Because you don't need to know it's at council next week. That's not helpful. Sorry.
That's okay. I think another one would be like just any big budget stuff with the city, like when they're announcing their budgets and like the city's saying what their priorities are. I think it would be really helpful for us to know about that information too. The reason I mentioned that's top of mind for me personally is I remember during like when Councillor Wright was appointed to us, we talked a lot about like the police budget and how it was locked in for like a set amount of years, like 4 or 2 more years or something like that. And we couldn't really talk about it. And so it'd be great when that subject comes up again to be able to talk about it.
And sorry, you know, budget will be December, so we might not get ahead of that one this year. Right, that's what you're saying.
Budget is presented on Thursday.
And what does that kind of mean? Like, is it like locked in?
So, and remember, I'm in week 3, but there is a 4-year budget. Typically, there's a 4-year budget cycle, and so we're in year 4 of 4, and so twice a year, we just review the budget, and then if there are, it's called the supplemental. Budget adjustments. So things that come in over budget or under budget will come in for adjustments. And so that's what we're going to be seeing on Thursday. And then there will be budget deliberations, I think December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And then after that gets approved and through, then that's where the tax that's the property tax is based on that budget. And then council goes into actually determining their 4-year budget from there. So the 2027 to the 2030 budget that's when, not only will council will look at priorities, we'll look at the city plan, we'll look at Connect Edmonton and all of those other pieces of information, and all of the budget, I guess, submissions, if there are some submissions. I work in provincial government, so normally there are budget submissions, but I would assume there are for city, and then the city plans the budget that way for a 4-year term. And I think that's really one of the things that Mayor Knack is wanting to do is bring the council together to talk about what are the priorities, because sometimes there are too many priorities, and when you have too many priorities, you can't get them done at like 100%. You get them done at like maybe 70 or 60%. So it'd be nice to have just like set priorities of like what we need to do. And then the main reason why I think it's so important is because after 4 years, I want to look back and say, did we do what we needed to do to be successful? Like, did we actually know if we were successful by looking back? So kind of what it looks like right now.
Okay, thank you for that overview. At the end of what you were kind of saying, is that when it would be a good opportunity for WAVE to kind of talk about it with you, like at our meetings?
Well, I think that, I've not been through a 4-year budget cycle myself, but what I would say is that there will be an opportunity that once we have the budget to actually be able to communicate and talk and share about the budget, not only with WAVE, but with like the residents of our wards as well, to understand where the money is going. I think we've been to a lot of, like during my campaign, I've knocked on a lot of doors, and so people have no idea where the money is going. And so it's nice to be able to not only share that, but there apparently was a tool back in other terms where there's like a budget game where, like people, you get the budget and you share where you think the money should go. And that helps helps council to determine like where the residents, where our committees, where they see priorities as well. So I'd love to do that. If there's an opportunity to do that, I'd love to kind of bring it here and see if it's a game.
That would be fun. I love games.
We're gonna play a game later, remember?
But yeah, as I know more, I think also as admin knows more, we can definitely share as we go along. But I think there are still changes, like as we go along. Even from last term, we're doing things differently from last term. So I'm just learning as I go, and I'll share with you as I learn as I go too. Great.
You'll have a section in the agenda starting next month.
Oh.
Just to prepare you.
Yeah, usually we have councillor updates, so that's when you would bring like new initiatives and new reports or things that are upcoming that are related to our work. Since things just got started, we weren't expecting really there to be much for you to bring. But just as a heads up, we would love if you could bring us items that would be of interest to us for consideration.
Absolutely. Okay. I think one more thing to add for a priority that we can talk about too would be really nice. And this is absolutely because I'm biased, but I anything regarding like Indigenous peoples, because I remember when we did our our work plan, we wanted to incorporate truth and reconciliation. We wanted it to be something that we all inherently do while we're like following our plan and our goals. That was something and like obviously we could have it as its own separate goal, but that was something that we wanted to as a committee back then. We have a different but it was something back then that we talked about. So it is something that I think is really important. But I do like community safety. That's also great. I'm really interested in looking at essentially what safety looks like, especially surrounding schools. And those, especially when it comes to speed bumps, because it's an issue where parents have to drop off their kids and there's a giant line of just vehicles, and then they have to leave their vehicles running to run their kid into school and run back out. There's a couple communities that are dealing with that, but it's just something
that. One more comment before we move on to the next section. Samia?
I just wanted to see if we could add. I know the city was doing really cool pieces around violence prevention. I know that they came and sat with us, and there were opportunities to contribute to the particular project that was ongoing. So if that's still ongoing, I'd love to see them come. And then housing. I'm surprised at how little we saw of that in my time here. Just if there's a way that we can be flagged for things like that that would concern women and gender diverse people. Thank you.
So I certainly gathered some ideas here, and then I also heard that you were going to meet maybe a policy and hone it down. So we'll take this as information and kind of wait for that final decision from policy. Fair?
Yes. So I think part of what we were talking about with the governance, them coming in to talk to us is a lot of like how to transition that, because I know they've kind of transitioned you into like, we are just council advisory only. And so it's kind of to talk about that change. And then this one is like, well, we also need something to work on then. It's like, okay, well, let's move into actually working on the council priorities so that we can kind of move in that direction. And then, so I'm hoping OCC, we can all make it make sense and figure out what's going on. And then we have things to kind of plan going forward for us.
Thank you, admin liaisons, for that update. We're gonna pass it off to Jess and Cherie for the policy subcommittee update.
And I'm going to turn to Cherie.
Yes. So we had our policy subcommittee meeting a little over a week ago. I was actually going to note, Britt, that Carissa didn't send out the minutes yet. So we were hoping we would get those policy subcommittee minutes out. We had a presentation on the childcare zoning changes and sort of a review for childcare facilities throughout the city, and they were looking at making some additional changes, most of which the policy committee supported. We just had some further questions about what available parking means in terms of some of the requirements for childcare services to have certain parking requirements. There was also some what seemed to be very biased old zoning for some special zones that treated childcare facility land use as discretionary. And we asked about that and why it was that discretionary use when the rest of the city gets a permitted use. And it sounded like it was kind of some old zoning. So they are going to be pushing to create permitted use across the city. And we provided some feedback to our presenter just about trying to look at making sure that wherever a childcare facility is for the city when they're doing their permitting, to really look at the context that having a childcare facility in a busy pedestrian Main Street focus compared to like maybe a residential street in a suburb is very different. And so using the exact same requirements maybe isn't appropriate. So we shared some of that. But overall, the goal of them making some amendments to that zoning is to allow for more of it and be less discriminatory in terms of the land use. Typically, zoning has been quite discriminatory, so they were looking at trying to open some of that up. So we provided some good feedback on that. And then we just kind of were visiting our letters again and this big debate of this safety letter. And so to kind of give you some background, we were getting quite a few sort of, I guess, notifications and messages from folks who were running in council, folks who were primarily women or women of color who were saying they were facing a lot of harassment and discrimination. Safety issues were a big concern for them. And so we had drafted up a letter to send to council and probably to Edmonton Elections to encourage putting in more policies and processes in place to ensure the safety of candidates. And so we were going to send that off during the election campaigns. Oh, you guys all went dark.
Get it or no. Into like, if you can do this.
Oh, and my hands go.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I have to pull it together.
I'll wait until you guys get the lights back on.
Listen, I have this, I made a surprise myself. I want to give it to somebody so bad. I'm really into the dark.
So I guess big debate is now, we've been advised by admin to maybe wait till January to send that letter. I guess my concern is if we wait way past election period, all you folks are like, it just, the timeliness of it is not as urgent anymore. But I also know that council is pretty overwhelmed with lots of orientation right now. So maybe too, you could even give us some suggestions of, you know, should we send that now while strike while the iron's hot? And it's just really just sharing our concerns of folks who reached out to us and giving some suggestions to council and probably Edmonton Elections around how to create some processes for a safer environment for candidates and council.
You know, it's interesting because I'm not sure about process right now. I will say that I've gotten a lot of emails just around Edmonton Elections process, a lot of other things. I've asked people to email them directly, and the reason I've asked them to do that is because there will be, you know, there'll be an after action, or there'll be similarly a report from Edmonton Elections that talks about, you know, what they could do better in the next election. I don't know if that would be considered, but I think that would be a good idea for that letter to go to Edmonton Elections. You know, I will look at it to see if that's appropriate, or if does it go to council first too, because it is like a arm's length body, right? So
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we can follow up and give an answer. My gut reaction is it'd be appropriate to send a CC to you, so you know, but we'll get back to you on that. And then timing, to answer your question, Sheree, I think Council Permar, you're right with the reflection or review, whatever, Election Canada. Maybe you're right, Sheree. This would be a good time.
yeah, I would say if you're going to do Edmonton Elections, if that's the recommendation, or if that is okay, that go as soon as you can. I think from a council perspective, it is the agendas are packed until next year for council right now. So I don't, but I wouldn't want to lose that. And like you said, like the momentum of what if they did put something in the report about that and you missed that opportunity? Because I experienced it myself. I think many people experienced a lot of harassment on, you know, at the doors and in that, you know, online, on a lot of different aspects. So I think it's important as more social media is used in elections as well. That also just puts more risk for individuals. Sonia?
I think that's a great idea, sending it to Edmonton Elections, but I really feel like City Council should be aware that this problem has existed and is continuing to. I want to say that fire has gotten bigger just with our current climate, and it's interesting because when I spoke to both incumbents and then we had folks coming forward to us that were not incumbents, and we had some Jackie Lou, who's a male, was experiencing racism along the trail, and I think if council removes itself, and I know your schedules are jam-packed and you're quite busy, but I did speak to a few of the male candidates around this, and a few of them said, well, why doesn't an outside organization just take this on? So if you're waiting for an outside organization to take this on with limited budgets and limited resources, especially right now, I don't know if you're seeing what's happening with Wage. That's where a lot of funding comes from to take on challenges like this. That budget still exists, but has been cut. So I don't think that we're asking council to, because I know y'all get a little nervous when you hear the word budget. I don't think that we're asking for budget for that, but I think you all should be well versed, including your male counterparts, on what's going on with this, because it spills over into other women and gender diverse people who are not only wanting to run for office, but wanting to go for leadership roles. I hear consistently, both in and outside of WAVE, that women and gender diverse people just don't want to pursue any kind of leadership. And I think that's a problem. And I think you all have a part to play in that as well. Even if it's not a financial piece, there are things that you can do around that as well. So I think the letter should definitely hit your desks as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that if the letter goes to Edmonton Elections and I don't think it's any different than the emails that come into our office that say congratulations, you know, this is kind of who I am, and you know, that's what we're getting a lot of. I feel from a reporting perspective, though, I'm just not sure how WAVE reports into council. And so definitely, I think that if you are going to send a letter to Edmonton Elections, I don't see the problem of copying all of the councillors. I would say that the councillors, and we've actually had conversations around this and how misinformation continues to come out and attack, like, not only the women, but all of council right now, making it just a challenge. It's just a challenging environment for a lot of people to be in. So I'll leave that to him, but I think the letter that goes to Edmonton Elections, copy to the councillor, I don't think that would be a problem. I think for us, it's more about the discussion going to council. That would be the one that would just take a bit longer to get on an agenda versus just sending it for, with the intent for the council to have the discussion. Because of course we would love to have the discussion.
Absolutely. And I think, sorry, if I can just make one more point, the part of the problem is that a lot of incumbents, and if you'd like, you can speak with them, have experienced the same things that we've captured in our letter, but I think folks don't know where to go. And you're right, we should send this to Edmonton Elections, and admin can advise further on that as well. But if we don't do something, I'm not sure if you've read some of the last few UN Women reports that come out. I suggest everyone at this table read those. They talk about how if we don't do something as of in this moment, then we won't achieve gender parity for close to between 160 to 300 years. And I know I sound like an alarmist. I do at most of these meetings, but that's all of our problems. And a lot of those stats and the pieces in those reports talk about leadership spaces, both elected officials and women in other spaces as well. So that's why I think whatever you want to do with the letter, I think all of you should read it. It's going to impact I'm not a mother, but it's going to impact our children and the people that come up behind us. So I want that to be a priority. Even if all you do is read it, I think you should be excited about the letter. All of you should be. So, and the continuing to just talk about it amongst yourselves and with us, but not be able to pursue any action on it. You're right, that falls to all of us. But I think you should champion this throughout your next 4 years, all of you, not just you, councillor, but all of the entire council. It was a huge problem. There's a news report attached. There's a link to that as well in the article where 2 candidates, male and female, talk about what they went through. I think that should be something in the back of your minds. That violence prevention piece ties in directly with this as well. Thank you.
Chairs, with your permission, I'll put forward that there's an action that admin comes back with the options to share this information, whether it goes to council, whether it goes to elections. So we'll come back with what are the options, and then the committee can decide in December. Fair?
Fair.
Let's move on to, I don't know if we're gonna get to the game.
We will, I believe in it.
Active Citizen Series update, we'll pass to Stella for that.
Hey everyone. For Active Citizen Series, we intend to do more like a call out or video talking about the focus of the municipal. So we're gonna be like talking about now we have done the elections, what are the things that the city is gonna be focusing on, basically just reiterating that point. So that is on our agenda to do. There are a couple of things that the city is also championing. I believe I saw a poll survey that the city sent out, just checking in on citizens' feedback on the childcare services and a couple of other services going on. So that will also be on the pipeline. However, we as a team will also strategize sometime in the beginning of the year to talk about other plans that we can start rolling out for the Citizen Series. But yeah, we have those 2 things picked for now, and then we'll proceed from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Stella.
if I can add just a call out for anybody that's interested in participating in the video that we're about to do. I was hoping to do this in person and be like, stay 5 minutes, but unfortunately I can barely stand. If you remember that one little animated screenshot that was like that list of municipal responsibilities and then provincial and then federal, what I'm hoping we can do is basically us reading it out, each person reading a different thing. But the quickest and easiest thing to do is if you send me a video where you literally read out the list and then you just pause for an extra second between those different bullet points. And then what I'll do is I'll like clip out so that we can have like a bit of a visual interest on it. So I'll just exchange it with people. Send me a note on WhatsApp or send me a note by email. I will be checking my email. Sorry, I'm really bad at that one. And then if you want an example, I've kind of done like a really quick one to show some of the groups of the Active Citizen series. So I can just show you what that looks like, and then you can build off and use your own personality and preferences to do it. But it would be really, really great if it was more than just me and Stella on the video. Thank you.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Okay, great. I'm going to give my Equity in Motion podcast update really fast, and we're going to play a game. Final episode, episode 3 is up. Please go check it out. JC's in it. Definitely go check that out. I'm just finishing up the final team bonus episode. Episode 4 is going to be up by the end of the month. So that'll be myself, Jasmine, and Erica talking about what it was like doing this project, how things had to shift, what we're maybe thinking about doing in the future, stuff like that. So keep an eye out for that. It'll be coming up by the end of the month. And then it'll be done with this project. Okay, with that, I know there's a section here for roundtable, but I would like that to be our game time. Does that have to be publicly recorded?
That's what I was gonna say. Can I have permission to adjourn? Like, can we adjourn?
Yes.
And then.
Yes.
Excellent. So I will start.
For everyone online.
I think it says 2 viewers. Wait, there's 2 viewers.